Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Bob, you can see this okay? Everyone can see it okay?
Good. Yep.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning for our remote guarding and security webinar. We truly appreciate your time. Time is the most valuable entity, and we appreciate you giving us some of our time. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So my name is Joanna Palowska. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Maximum Security, and I also assist with product development. On the call with us is also Bob Doyle. He's our Vice President of Solutions.
Yeah.
Just for some housekeeping, we ask that everyone keep their audio on mute. That way there are no distractions. We do welcome questions. Please do put them in the chat box, and we promise that we'll get through all of them. And if not, we'll answer them privately in an email. So thank you so much for that. So a little bit of an introduction. My name is Joanna Palowska. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, and I do product development for Maximum Security. I work very closely in liaison with the owner's team directly and indirectly on various aspects of business, including product development. I am a board member for CAI, which is a Community Associations Institute. It's a residential community-oriented association. I also serve as a board member for IFMA, which is the International Facility Managers Association. And I'm excited to share with you that I am up for the president role for 2024. And this year I've also been awarded the top 50 Women in Business Award for the Long Island Business News Association, which is pretty exciting for me. As you see, I'm very community oriented via a lot of charity work and associations. And this makes me acutely aware of many residential community security issues, including remote guarding. So therefore, I'm able to assist with product development, including remote guarding. So a little bit about Maximum Security. Maximum was founded in 2002 by four former police officers. They really wanted to shift the way security was done. We wanted more of like a customer-centric focus. When you call, someone actually picks up and speaks with you. And in taking that approach of working very closely with our customers, the team has grown to over 350 licensed security officers and growing. And our team really does focus on relationships. We have a community-driven culture and a local focus. In having a local focus, we've learned about a lot of the pain points of residential communities, and we decided to pivot the business into remote guarding, and we have become a local leader in remote guarding, including having our own local data center. In addition to that, we are the preferred security vendor for over 35 residential communities and growing. Just a couple of companies that we do business with amongst many. If you know the show Kevin Can Wait, we've provided security for them. We've done Sony Pictures, CBS. We also serve a lot of property management firms such as Fairfield Properties, Beechwood Homes, and Benjamin Development Co., amongst many. So one of the first things that we like to go through is, many residential communities feel that, the biggest issue with security is at the gatehouse. It is. However, there are other areas of vulnerability, such as the pool, the gym, and the clubhouse. So what do I mean by that? Well, the pool, you have your, teenager that jumps the fence at 3 o'clock in the morning. They go into the pool. God forbid they drown, you have an issue. At the gym, someone falls, that could be a liability. Same thing at the clubhouse, someone's having a get-together, it kind of gets out of hand. That could be a liability as well. And I'm sure everyone on this call is already familiar with visitor management at the gatehouse and the issues that can kind of fall out of place if we don't have proficient security. So in addition to that, we're finding that a lot of residential communities are having the biggest issue when it comes to the pending and ongoing minimum wage increases. As you see through this map, the numbers are becoming astronomical, and holding tight to a budget is becoming a real concern. There are also additional issues such as, current security protocols. They have more of a reactive response where if you do have actual cameras, you're kind of watching everything after the fact. There isn't any live intervention. And with an increase in crime, all of these factors combined, they're really starting to point towards the need for heightened security. So with that being said, we'd like to talk to you about what we've come up and how we've pivoted to kind of give more guarding at a lower cost and provide more efficiency at the gatehouse and throughout residential communities. So at this point, I will allow Bob Doyle, who's our Vice President of Security Solutions, to take over and go through our next steps. Bob?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Joanna. Great introduction. Appreciate it. My background is in law enforcement. I spent 38 and a half years in law enforcement, had a varied amount of jobs that I did. Spent the bulk of my career in the homicide squad as a supervisor, and then I ran the major case squad as well. So I have a big background in security, since retired from the police department. For the last 12 years, I've been a consultant to national and international companies on security issues. So this is quite fascinating, and I think the big fascination is what can we do, right, with technology, not to replace the physical guard, but to enhance what the physical guard actually does. So I think you're going to find this throughout this presentation. What we've done is we're able to mimic what the physical guard does, only we can do it much more efficiently through technology. And there's a lot of bells and whistles to the technology. There's a lot of ways for us to keep it all in check, where sometimes we're not able to do that with a physical guard. So that's what this is all about. So it's going to be hardware, AI software, and human intelligence that puts this all together. This is a little nomenclature, basically, of a gatehouse. And as you can see, we put several cameras along the perimeter of the gatehouse. We're using a license plate reader. Every vehicle that comes in, we use a license plate reader. It's recorded. We're usually using rapid gate systems in most homeowners communities. Presently, we use a Grand Stream for the intercom system, which also has a camera in it as well. So we're getting, and I'll show you some really close facial shots of people. One of the things I've learned in law enforcement over the years, cameras are a fantastic technology. It's a it's a force multiplier. It is a great way of the police to find out what's happened after the fact. And that's how most people look at camera systems. They install a camera system and they expect protection out of a camera system. Well, in reality, that doesn't happen, because cameras become the true and ultimate force multiplier when somebody is monitoring those cameras. So when we're monitoring them in real time, when we see criminal activity, when there's certain actions, right, that's when the camera has its super value. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. So next one, Joanna.
Sure.
So this is basically what we look to do at Maximum Security, right? Maximum Security was founded by 4 police officers, right, who have an extensive background in security. They wanted a higher level of security. So we do continuous training. We believe that we have a higher level guard. We are now employing artificial intelligence in our technology. And that artificial intelligence allows us to focus on and do a predetermined what we're actually looking for. Are we looking for a car? Are we looking for a person? Are we looking for a motorcycle? Are we looking for a bicycle, right? So artificial intelligence is not a bad word. It's actually a very good word in this industry, and it's helped us quite a bit. We believe in being local, so we can triage the operation immediately if there's a problem. And we're a New York-based command center, and that's how we formulate our quality control here as well. So next one, Joanna.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to get into the software a little bit, what we actually do and how we actually do it. Okay, so now one of the big differentiators of the physical guard compared to the remote guard is those superior documentation capabilities, right? We're going to know the date, time, location, who even accessed the camera. The data is fully searchable. We're going to have a detailed system of checks and balances for better accountability. So look, we're in the guard business, and while I'm not going to bash physical guards for 1 minute, but I'm just telling you that when we use technology, we're getting a higher level of efficiency. So for example, every single incident has to be documented, right? So it's not only documented in the camera, it's documented on software as well. What the guard, our licensed security guard, did in that command center when they saw that 8-second activation, that clip of activity that we're looking for through artificial intelligence. So then we go there to our live cameras and we're able to look and we're able to make a determination, albeit it could be as simple as a transaction at the gatehouse. Somebody wants to visit somebody, right? Documented, we make the call, we do everything exactly the way the fiscal guard would do it. Only thing, this is being super documented, right, as well. And the same thing would go if we have a car dealership, right, or we're protecting property at a construction site. Whatever comes up is documented. Now, obviously, if a guy's coming in with burglary tools at 2 o'clock in the morning at a car dealership, the police are being immediately called. That person is up to no good. So that's how this thing basically works. All right, Joanna, next one.
Sure.
Okay, so I talked about a lot about artificial intelligence and making something predetermined, which we can do. We actually use third-party software, and how this basically works is we preset where we're going to go with this, right? So this is a homeowners association. It happens to be my homeowners association, which I'm also the president of and have been in the homeowners association world for over 20 years. I've actually been the board president of where I live for the past 13 years. If we have any other board presidents on here, you can feel my pain right now, but I'm involved in my own community. So this is an actuate. Typically, what we do is we're looking for a car, we're looking for a motorcycle, we're looking for a bicycle, and we're looking for a pedestrian. This is what the guard would actually see. Now, the documentation would come up. The guard would have to documentate what actually happened at this gatehouse right now. And then switching over to the live cameras. This is an Uber driver. That's the passenger in the back. They've pulled up. It's late in the evening, and now this particular, what's called the gooseneck in black here, has the grand stream on it. The Uber driver is talking to that grand stream and saying, I have a passenger, and that passenger needs to visit so-and-so at such and such an address. Now, the command center gets in touch with them, back to the Uber driver, says, okay, listen, we're going to need to see identification. And they make the call ahead to the visitor, and the typical transaction that you would see at any gatehouse. The only thing that's different here is you can see we have an overall view of the car, and we're going to show you several views of the car. On top of it, we're using Night Guard software. That software is recording this visitor and putting that plate number into a database. So we have every which way, should this thing go sour for some reason or other, that we can call the police and we can give them tremendous information to solve just about anything they need to solve. All right, Joanna, the next one. And you got to go, there you go. I just wanted to point this out to you. This was kind of a little unexpected. The Uber driver did not get close enough to the gooseneck. And I just want to show you how accurate the software is that we're using. The software came up and said, whoa, wait a second, I have a pedestrian. and it outlined the Uber driver as a human being. It saw a human being, right, out of the car, right? And then immediately a second alert came in that we had a human being. And this would be the same thing as if you had a walker coming into your community. Say you had somebody walking up at 2 o'clock in the morning. We would pick this up the same exact way on the cameras. The only difference is the guard in the command center would use that IP horn that you saw in the previous slides. They would be able to communicate with that pedestrian on the IP horn and say, can we help you? Now that pedestrian may say, no, I'm just walking. I just want to see what this community is all about. And the guard in the command center is going to come back and say, there is no trespassing here, right? You have to leave immediately. Now, if that person doesn't leave immediately, our next step is to use a blue strobe light to get their attention, because we're going to tell them that we're calling the police, right? And that the police are on their way. Now, if you think about the dynamics of this, all our security guard can do is call the police. That if we had a physical security guard in that booth, that's all they're privileged to do. They're not going to get into a confrontation because they can't legally get in a confrontation with that walker, try to prevent that walker physically from walking in. They're the eyes and ears for our community. So we're now, with technology, we're using that as our eyes and ears. So the licensed security guard in our command center is going to pick up the phone, call 911. 911 can dispatch just as quickly when we call as if the guard in the booth called, right? And we're going to get the police there. The police are going to enter, and the police are going to find this person walking and trespassing. So it's the same exact thing. It's just so well documented, everything that we're doing here. Next slide, please, Joanna.
Sure.
Okay, this is part of the docket. We use Actuate software, and that is our third-party software that we use for our artificial intelligence. You can see here on the left side of the screen, this is where the guard has to write down what they've done with this particular 8-second clip. So basically how it works is we get an 8-second clip of the activity that the artificial intelligence software has triggered. From there, we can use the other stream of the camera. We can look at the cameras live, and we can watch the whole transaction go on right through that. And that's typically what's done. But the difference here is the documentation process. Where else can you be so documented? You can't possibly be with a physical guard compared to the technology. And this is the added benefit of having the remote guard, is the documentation process. All right, Joanna. The other part that I mentioned, we're very proud partners to have Night Guard technology. We use them on all of our sites to control our visitors. Night Guard integrates with our license plate readers when we have a physical guard, or when we're in the command center, we're able to see those plate numbers. And how this works is, then we've seen the same, if you've come to our community once before, that is going to read automatically. We're going to know that you've been here before. We're going to see where you've gone before, right? So if you're a repeat visitor, for the first time, it will log in, and then after that, we'll have you logged in every other time. But we can do a lot of things with Night Guard. We can do clip video storage as well, which we can see clip the video of the vehicles and the transaction. We have searchable license plates on here for data. We can have we can manage our own visitors. Our residents can manage themselves basically through using this technology. Night Guard is a database on steroids, folks. It can do anything, and it can give you reports. It can tell you when people are coming, when they're going, how many calls you're getting during the day. It's very good for doing planning around your gatehouse or your activity center. So those reporting features, we use them all the time. I use them in my own community all the time to know how many cars are coming in, what's our highest times of transactions and things of that nature. So it's really great stuff. Okay, Joanna. Okay, this is just an overview of, and of course we see these blown up on full screen. We've blocked the faces on this because we do use some of these on YouTube, and we don't want to disclose because of privacy issues. But you can see how we're seeing this car from every single direction imaginable. That lower left-hand corner is the plate reader. We're able to absolutely see that plate. We're able to see the overview of the car. We're able to tell what kind of car it is. Every last detail about this. Next one, Joanna. Okay, we blotted out the plate number for privacy issues, but I just want to show you how accurate this is, right? We can read the whole entire plate with this. There's no better evidence than that, folks. We're getting really, really good stuff here. Next one, Joanna. And we've blotted out these faces again with it, but here's the full, and we blotted out the license of this girl. She presents her license to the Grand Stream, which has a camera in it, but you can see her name is Francesca, right? You can see her expiration date. You can see it crystal clear, right? So, like I said, that in combination with the license plate reader and the overview of views of those cameras, we are providing tremendous evidence to the police department should we have an incident that needs further police investigation. And we have it all, it's all documented. Joanna? Okay, I'm going to give it back to Joanna at this point.
Sure. So I think it's also important to note that one of the greatest aspects is the live intervention. So as opposed to, traditional, ways in which you kind of have to watch the camera after the fact, hope that you could put it all together. This is all live. So our security officers could actually intervene and deter that criminal or that vandal off the property. And that really does make all of the difference. We typically get asked on these webinars about the price points. So we wanted to share some information with you. The pricing is based on some factors. On average, we do save about 39% savings, and that's based on an 8-hour remote guarding shift, which is typically the overnight shift. Also, what's great is that if you do take a 3-year contract, there is no upfront technology cost, which is a great savings considering the shrinking budgets due to inflation. And also the pricing factors that we utilize in order to price our solution is how big is your community, how many transactions are on the overnight tour, and if we can utilize any existing technology. So typically we do start with a site assessment. Number one, to see, if you do have tech, is it comparable? Does it integrate well with what we have? But also to take a look at the environment to make sure that all vulnerabilities are assessed and to ensure that our solution, really is fine-tuned to assess as much of the property as we can. Bob, do you want me to take this one or?
Yeah, I'll take it, Joanna.
And also, Bob, just real quick, just want to make sure, because I know we're running very fast. Please do ensure just to touch upon how we kind of partner with other security guarding firms, just so that the audience can see the value there as well.
Sure. So we work on a lot. Look, I'm a board president myself. I know this was a difficult transition for us because we had to convince people that the technology was very worthwhile. And in fact, the technology was better than the physical guard, right? And that's a tough place to go. because we have a lot of old school thinking. You're noticing the white hair. I have a community of similar people. Not everyone accepts technology, right? But so we had to educate them, right, of how this was going to work. So what we did was we actually do this at maximum as part of our plan to help with getting your community on board. So we do literature, we do in-person meetings, we do webinars, right? We do a trial basis to ease that community apprehension. So it's a no, it's a good trial that we can convince people that, yeah, it's worth it. Give it a try. You can always go back to the physical God, right? So we usually introduce this solution on the overnight shift. Why? Because like most communities, you're probably getting very few visitors on the overnight shift, right? You're probably getting your most complaints about the overnight shift. The guard was asleep. The guard was distracted. The guard was in the restroom. I came in, I walked the dog in, and the guard never even saw me. Trust me, folks, those cameras are ever vigilant. They see everything. They don't miss anything. They don't sleep. They don't eat. They don't talk to their girlfriend, right? It's all business all of the time. The other thing that we try to do is we offer HOA communities a no-cost equipment with a 3-year contract that we will actually put the equipment in, we'll foot the bill, we'll make that part of a 3-year contract. So you really can't lose on this, and your community can't lose. They just need to be convinced to give it a try with this. So one of the things that we're pretty good with and we're pretty famous for is that project onboarding. And then we'll do consistent communication with the property managers or the board if they're self-managed. And then the client is provided with documents on the project particulars of how this is going to go, right? So they have a game plan. They know when it's going to go in. They know the approximate date that we're going to be able to deliver the service, and the trial is on. So I can tell you this. I've had this for over 3 years now at my particular community. We used to get complaints continuously, right, on physical guards, especially on the overnight tour. We have not had one complaint in 3 years about the technology. So people now accept it. They're good with it, and we're saving quite a bit of money at my particular community. So it's worked very, very well for us. We've offered many trials with this, with other communities. We've never once had anyone say, nope, that's not it. It's no good for us. We need to have the physical guard come back. So far, so good. We're batting 100% with the communities that we serve, and we're very proud of that. Joanna, I think that's about it, right? Next one. Okay. The
Yes,
questions, and I know there's one already.
yep, I see. Let me stop sharing my screen so I could take a look at the chat box. Okay, so Bob, we have a question from John. What happens if your gate breaks or is hit by a car? Seems to happen often here. Ay, ay, ay.
John, I feel for you. That's problematic, but it's the same thing as if we had the guard in the booth. We're going to see it. We're going to do what we need to do with it. One of the reasons why we partner with other guard companies like Marion Security down in New Jersey is because we believe that guarding is a local operation, right? So, and that's why we partner with, we provide technology and technology security here through our command center. So we're able to do that remotely, but we also recognize that there will be times when somebody's going to drive through the gate, that there's going to be a power outage, that there's going to be an internet outage. We recognize all of that. And that's why we need a local guard company to be able to respond, to send a body to that gate until it's fixed, right? So that's exactly what we do here. We haven't had that many of them with it. Every once in a while, we'll get an outage. We're able to send somebody on Long Island, obviously, for maximum security, but in other places that we work, we're able to send our partner guard company to them.
Yep. And also just to add to Bob's point, for maximum security, the quality of the product is so important to us that we've taken the past 2 years to really do our due diligence and qualify a ton of software and make sure that it fits the price points, make sure that it supports the future trends with the increasing minimum wage, to make sure that there is a value set for our clients in general, whether it's from the price point or efficiency. But also, Bob, I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but in our data center, you're also getting a higher level guard that's supervising, all of the monitoring guards in there. So overall, it's just a really great solution. And if you think about it, the minimum wage will continue to increase. It's never going to decrease, right? So we specifically also developed this solution with that in mind, because it will support the budget since you're cutting your security costs as much as you are. And in addition to that, if you take a look at all of your expenses, typically for residential communities, security is the biggest expense. So I just wanted to point some of those things out. But let me see, what else do we have in here? Okay, Bob, wow, we have a lot of questions. This is awesome.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Great point, Joanna, honestly, and just to touch upon that command center again, we have a supervisor. We have we use licensed security guards in our command center. So this is not a call center in India. This is not a call center in California someplace. I know Simple Safe markets. I know a lot of people market. We believe we need to know the local flavor of what's going on. And that's why it's so important for us to partnership with the local guard company, right, wherever we're going to be, because we need to know the right police department to call. We need to know, because our interest is truly security. That's the end game for us. So we need to know about security, and trust me, no one in that command center is falling asleep. They're busy all the time. In fact, I had a great security officer here who maximum took away from me and put in the command center. And I saw her come back on occasion, and I said, "How busy are you in that command center?" She says, "Bob, it's unbelievable how busy we are." So no one's slacking off in the command center. It is what it is, and we're proud of it, how we do it. So go ahead, Joanna. Next questions.
Sure. Okay, went through that one. I know you said you recommend starting with overnights. Do you do daytime services as well?
We do, but it's based on the community and the size of the community, where we want to be efficient with this. We want to be able to scale. I think we start with most communities on the overnight, and we see how it goes, and then we see how many visitors you actually have and how much interaction you have during the day tours. Right. So, day tours can be very busy. We can have FedEx, UPS, postal services, vendors, so they can be somewhat complicated. We are working on some other systems right now. Our partners are working on some of the systems that, for example, to recognize a United Parcel Service truck, to automatically recognize it. Let's face it, folks. If a marked truck comes in and it's an Amazon truck, we're going to let that truck in, right? Because otherwise, my residents would be coming at me with a torch and a pitchfork if I didn't let Amazon in. I mean, it's like the Wells Fargo wagon. They look for it every single day here. So we want to move them through the gate quickly. Where we're finding some difficulty right now is with the Uber Eats drivers and whatnot. There's a lot of them, more than I would think on that business model, because it is pretty expensive. Apparently, no one likes to cook at home anymore, so they have all of these food vendors coming in and out. So that has added to it. So to answer your question, yeah, we start on the overnight, we do a full evaluation, and that's how we make our pricing model based on the number and what the activity is. We know we're a pretty safe bet overnight, and that's a good bet for you as well to sell it to your community, right? That it's going to work. And then we move on to the next stage.
Yeah.
Joanna?
Sure. And also to add to Bob's point, the technology is only going to get better, right? And one of our KPIs and one of our values is consistency and is excellence. So we're consistently looking, how else can we improve it? What other features can we add? And because we're so closely oriented with our communities and our clients, we kind of get the one-on-one feedback. Even when it comes to the technology implementation, we have weekly technology calls. How is this community doing? What can we improve? Are we getting any feedback? So it is an ongoing kind of process that we have, but the difference is the distinction, because when you're continuously looking at how to improve, you're continuously staying ahead of the curve. And because crime continues to rise, it's kind of a necessary process. So I just wanted to add that in there. All right, let's see, what else do we have? So many questions, I love it. Hi, okay. So Melissa is asking, what if our association can only do a 2-year contract with an option for a third per our governing documents?
Melissa, I'm sure we can accommodate that. There may be a little more upfront money in order to pay for the equipment. Usually we're putting in probably around $12,000 worth of equipment, in the average gatehouse. So we have to be able to pay for that. Sometimes we run into a gatehouse, believe it or not, that has compatible equipment, and the equipment is pretty new. And if we can utilize that, then we can look at the cost, and we can do the cost a little bit differently with it. So it's all according to what's in your particular gatehouse to begin with. Quite frankly, folks, I look at a lot of gatehouses. Most of them are analog cameras. They're outdated. Seems to be most folks' last concern about replacing cameras in a gatehouse. So yeah, we're putting them with digital cameras. We need to have cameras that can accommodate our third-party software as well. So all of those factors we take into account for it. So Melissa, was one of your questions here, how does the equipment work in the event of a power failure? And so I think if you had a gatehouse, you could put a generator in, but then there's an issue with internet. So we can do something that we're doing in a lot of our gatehouses here, is we seem to have more internet interruption than we do power interruption. So we're putting wireless cards in to give us internet, right, in many of our gatehouses now as an extra service. So we can automatically go, basically it's like a cell service, right? But it's a data service. And we can use T-Mobile, we can use Verizon, we can use a host of, we even use Musk's Starlink, right? Starlink, we're even using that. So we have that in various locations now. We don't have as much of a power issue on Long Island, but you can use an emergency generator. But quite frankly, folks, if you think about, and I thought about this a lot, about my own community here. Last time we had major outages was during Hurricane Sandy. And that's been a while ago for us. So, but if you are prone to that, depending on where your jurisdiction is, you might want to look at a generator, you might want to look at other means to power up, because this thing still needs a computer. it's a computer, if you will. You still need to drive all of those mechanisms by some sort of a power source. But again, that's the beauty of having partnerships with local guard companies, that they can respond, they can give you a body when you have those typical emergencies that you have. Happens pretty infrequently on Long Island. We're pretty blessed for that, but I know some other jurisdictions may have that problem more. So I hope I answered that.
Very well done, Bob. Okay, moving along. Hi, it's Orlando Gonzalez. Hi, Orlando. You could go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, great. Yeah. Hey guys, thank you for the presentation. I'm looking at this from a different perspective, and I know you're talking about condos. I'm a director of security for a financial institution. I've been in the industry 35 plus years. And I'm looking more from we're creating what we call a SOC room. So it's a security command center.
Mhm.
I was looking at it for monitoring late in the evening hours. So, after your regular shift goes home, then we got the midnight shift and the graveyard shift. So I was looking at it from that perspective. I guess my question is, being a financial institution, we already have a lot of cameras and systems in place. And I was wondering, is that technology, the analytics part of it, able to be utilized with existing cameras, surveillance equipment that we might have?
Yes, Orlando, definitely. In your particular case, we could probably utilize your equipment as long as it's digital equipment. And even sometimes we can convert that if it's analog to a digital format.
Right.
Sometimes it might be just cheaper, to be honest with you, Orlando, to rip it and go right with digital. So we've looked at it both ways, and we try to do it the most cost-effective way. One of the things you're referring to is an FBI best practice, which is called video verified alarming, because I don't know if you're using physical security guards in your financial institutions overnight now, or you're just looking at the cameras.
We have 24 locations, 17 in Florida, and we have 7 in Houston. So my thought process was to create a command center.
Zoom meeting, hang on, so I can hear you better. Just a second.
Oh, sorry, I lost you.
Okay, go ahead.
You're still there, Orlando. We can hear you.
You're on, Orlando.
Oh,
We can hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so my idea is to have a command center from a economic standpoint. My thought process was I'm utilizing a guard during the day shift, till let's say regular, 8 to 5, whatever it is. And then after I can switch over to your Guardian, program where it can save the bank instead of having, 4 different shifts of guards to monitor activity that might be going on in the late evening.
Yep.
So that was my thought process for that.
It's a good thought process. We do that already for many businesses on the overnight, with it, and it is called video verified alarming, and they're able to see a particular activity at that time. Call whoever. We could call your SOC. We could call the police directly. So we have other ways to go. Just to give you an example, we are in the banking space already. What we do is we do the ATM vestibules. This basically started with the pandemic and has continued, that we would have, especially in New York City, we have it on Long Island, we would have the vagrants, the homeless, coming in to utilize the ATMs at night. Now, no one is going, you see some guy sleeping in an ATM, right? You're not going to go use that ATM. So what is that? That's a business interruption that costs the bank money. And it also, it just doesn't sit well with the customers. They want access to their cash. So what we're able to do is we monitor many locations for ATMs, and then we have a talk down horn in there. We try to coax that person out of there. And if the coaxing doesn't work, then we call the police, and then we have the police call them out. But we've had all kinds of crazy stuff happen in those ATMs prior to us getting there, with them destroying it, bodily functions going on there, everything else. It's been terrible. So it's worked really well in that space for us, in the banking space. We can do it. So Orlando, I'm happy to talk about this offline with you, to give you some proposals, what we can do and how we can do it. We're pretty efficient and pretty effective, and I think you're going to find it cost effective. Rather than hiring your own guards in the SOC, we do this. We have the software. We're able to do it. I think it's going to be more cost effective for you.
Orlando, does that answer your question? Orlando, does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Awesome.
Yeah, I was more interested in the analytics, if it can be interfaced with existing software, which I believe it can, but I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, it definitely can.
Okay. All right, moving along. Next up, we have a question from John. Thank you for your question, John. What would you expect to see as a response time to a broken gate?
That would be the individual guard company. I can speak for Maximum. We're usually to get somebody to your gatehouse probably within an hour, right? And they can man that gate. So think about this for a second. What if your power went out, right? Now you could lift your gate up manually, but you'd still have that same situation basically, right? But you'd have the body there already, right? We're able to get the body there within an hour. I don't want to speak for Marion Security, who I know is on this call, but I think they could probably do something comparable. In fact, they might be able to do better than we can do. We'll get somebody out, we'll manage it. We're open 24/7, obviously, 7 days a week. We're able to get somebody there, and we're able to manage that. Those things happen. But I got to tell you something, as far as the gates go, listen, I'm happy to do a call with you. I've managed our own gates. We had that in the beginning, Alan, when my community was built 24 years ago. It seemed like every week somebody was going through that gate. But there's other things that you can do to manage that. Knock on wood, the last person who went through our gate was a school bus driver. And then the school bus company tried to tell me, by the way, that the gate came down in the school bus. I said, folks, we'd have broken gates all day long if that was the situation, right? It's not the situation, right? One car goes through, the gate opens, gate closes behind it, and we don't have broken gates. So, Alan, I know this is yours. I'm happy to, Joanna could arrange another conversation with us to go in. Maybe I can come up with some ideas for your community, so that's managed a little bit better, so you don't have that situation. I don't think you should have that situation with it as well. Okay, Joanna.
Very good. We have quite a few more questions. Melissa asks, is the cost of the software based on the size of the property, upgrade cost for this?
The cost of the technology and the cost of us in the command center is based on the amount of traffic that we're actually getting through the tour. So that's why we recommend, so think about it. If you have a 24/7 gate guard, we recommend doing the overnight first. That's going to be, we can probably pretty much quote you that at a very reduced price. And that's 1/3 of your budget right there. So 1/3, you're going to be working at a very reduced price. And folks, this has all come about. You saw that slide that Joanna had in the beginning of the United States, and you look at the minimum wage. Look, I hate to use the minimum wage, but I'm going to use it. I tell communities all the time, this is the hook, right? Why a lot of people are doing it, because folks, it's dollars and cents. But in reality, this is much more efficient than any physical guard you could have in that booth on the overnight. And that's the real factor that I want you to know. But most communities, and this is look, you've seen this all over the place. If you've been into a McDonald's recently, and I don't go to McDonald's often, but every once in a while when I'm traveling on the thruway, I stop at a McDonald's to use the rest area. And I'm fascinated by how they've changed their entire industry, right? And why have they changed it? It's because of minimum wage. Now, for some of you who are a little bit older, you remember when you were kids, when McDonald's first started, they had cashiers all over the place. They had cooks all over the place. They employed a ton of people, right? Once the minimum wage started to hit, what did they do? They brought in technology. So now when you go into a McDonald's, you go to a kiosk. You order your food through the kiosk, you pick your table, you insert your credit card or you insert your bills. No one handles any money. You handle your own money. You pick your table and your food is delivered to you. So what do you have now? You have 2 or 3 people working in a McDonald's, a server and the cook behind it. And it's the same thing, folks. You go into the grocery store, what are you seeing? You're seeing technology. You're checking it out yourself. And this is even worth it to the big supermarket chains because they know there's slippage, that not every item is getting scanned. They know that, but they're willing to go with that because it's still cheaper than the labor that they have to hire. So it is about labor. Although I get from the government standpoint how they keep increasing this minimum wage, because we have a segment of the population that feels that these are career jobs. These jobs that I just mentioned, including guarding, these were part-time jobs for people. Now they've become career jobs for people. So in the state of New York, as my boss tells me all the time, we now have to give 7 days off to our physical guards. We give 7 days off, and that morphs into 10 days. So that's another part of the minimum wage. So the minimum wage keeps escalating and the benefits keep escalating with it as well. So now we have a mandatory 7 days off that we have to give as well. So that's the reason why this technology and everything else, people are looking for alternatives, right? But our alternative is much more efficient. And I think that's the bottom line. Joanna?
Very well said, Bob. Moving along, Rita asks, do you provide other services such as new gate arms, cameras at non-manned gates, and barcodes and barcode readers?
We can provide just about anything on the technology spectrum. However, we are not into the gate business. We can recommend people who are in the gate business. We're not in that business. We can do the technology of the gate, right? So for example, you're a visitor in my homeowners association. We just went through the whole transaction remotely. We remotely open up that gate, right? When we see police and fire responding at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? We open up the gate. We also have a Yelper on there as well, that when the police car goes through, it hits the siren, or there's another mechanism through radio frequency that they can cue on their mics. The gate opens automatically, so there's no hesitation. But our guards in the command center are actually seeing those vehicles approaching, right? And we're able to open up the gate remotely. So we can do anything remotely. It doesn't matter where you are. As long as we've got an internet connection, we can open that gate remotely.
Very good. Alan asks, do you folks supply your own gate equipment? Same as before, does your company do the repair or replacement? What's the turnaround?
We don't do anything with gates, Alan, but we can get a provider like on Long Island. There are several providers on Long Island. I don't know where you're calling from, but yep, yeah, we just don't handle that. There's a lot involved with gates, folks, because you have to put a loop in the roadway. You have to do various things with gates. We, like I said, we can do the technology side of the gate. We can make it open remotely. But that's what we do. We don't do the digging, the trenching, and all of that other stuff that happens. And then the replacements of the mechanisms themselves, we don't do any of that.
Okay, so that concludes our chat box questions. If there are no other questions, I just want to make it a point that we will be following up after this meeting with the recording of this webinar in case the audience would like to share it with anyone that couldn't make it on here. And we will be providing our contact information for anyone that would like to schedule a site assessment or just in case there are any additional questions. Bob, anything else?
No, is there anyone else at all that has any question? You can take your mics or you can go off mute and, just shout out a question if anybody's got anything. I just want to make sure you're fully satisfied that you understand everything, and every question is a good question. Wow, we must have exhausted them, Joanna.
I know.
I hope not.
And
You're
we made
great.
it in an hour. That's pretty awesome.
You're a great audience, folks. I really appreciate it. Ed Kloss himself is on from Night Guard. So, Ed, thanks for joining us as always. You're a great partner.
My pleasure as always.
And Bob Phillips, thank you also for Marion Security. Thank you for joining us as well. If you gentlemen have anything to add to this, that would be a perfect time. But once again, if any questions do come up after this webinar, you will have our contact information. We're happy to jump back on and answer anything that's left unanswered.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
All
Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.